Hey YouTube, it's Eric. Hope everyone's doing well. I'm going to be streaming. This video is going to be on the topic of this is a great historical find that was sent to me by the channel N Goods. Everyone should subscribe to his channel if you haven't. He posts great articles on my website Jesuit World Order, which everyone should check out as well. But Nick Engoods sent me this historic. This is an historical romance novel or a historical fiction novel from the 1890s. It was written in 1893 by a German woman here, Louise Muhlbach, titled "Old Fritz in the New Era." And there's this incredible chapter. I'm going to read out the chapter on my channel because it's more proof of the Jesuit control of all secret societies, in particularly the Rosicrucians and the Freemasons of the Egyptian branch. Because Count Cagliostro, here's a photo of him here. He was a Knight of Malta and he was a member of the Catholic Order of St. John of God. Count Cagliostro is credited as being the founder of the Egyptian branch of Freemasonry in 1780. Remember, in the videos, I've done previous videos on the one that everyone should watch is titled the Jesuit connections to Freemasons, Rosicrucians, and Freemasonry. The Jesuits created the modern system of Freemasonry in 1717 in their College of Clermont in Paris, France. I'm holding up here. I was reading out of this book. This is one of the best books, historical books on the topic. This is an historical romance. This is history. This is written by a Freemason here, Nicholas de Bonneville. This book was written in 1777, but was recently translated in the French, but was translated into English in 2011. It's titled "The Jesuits Driven Away from Freemasonry." And this was written by a Mason himself. I was reading out of this book in the previous video I did on the topic of Jesuits and Freemasonry. But yeah, we're going to get into. I'm going to read to you here the chapter in this historical romance book here called "Old Fritz in the New Era." The chapter is called "The Jesuit General," and you see how the Jesuit General is in total. He was the invisible father of the Rosicrucian Society and Freemasonry. Nicholas de Bonneville goes into how the G in the Freemasonic logo, the famous G in the square and compass, symbolizes the Jesuit General. Here you can see this. Look at this. On the Scottish Rite website, you can see here that's clearly a Jesuit sunburst there with the G see in the middle, Jesuit General. Here are the two pillars, Boaz and Joachim, which symbolize here Beatius Ignatius, according to the Freemason Nicholas de Bonneville. See, de Bonneville says here, the G in the blazing star can only symbolize the general of the order, the Jesuit order. He's saying this on page 102. One must confess that a god standing up on his feet looks strongly like a man. It can only be rigorously a man, and allegorically the King of Kings, an almighty man, a God's representative. Therefore, it is the general of the Jesuits, since the general of the Jesuits is called par excellence God's representative, the one who holds God's place, oicum Dei tennis, and that he quotes there in Latin. And you can, in the Jesuit constitutions, it is referred to that the general is referred to as a god. And all Jesuits have to be total slaves in absolute obedience to him. And you'll see that Count Cagliostro in this dialogue I'm going to read is a total slave to the Jesuit general in the dialogue. Bonneville says here, in the lodges, G is represented by the word God because the general of the order of the Jesuits, according to a famous historian, is God's representative. And he talks about how the G... He probably brings it up over 10 times in this book, how the G represents the Jesuit general, but that's just one excerpt there. He says the blazing star with 6 rays today of Rosicrucians includes an eye. And you see, if you look at lots of Freemason, like it's this eye here, the all-seeing eye of the Freemasons and the Rosicrucians, also represents the Jesuit general. Where is that? Okay, so here's this kind of eye triangle pyramid structure up here. The blazing star of 6 rays today of Rosicrucians includes an eye. Eye is explained in the book Joachim and Boaz, as, quote, the eye of providence, or the great superintendent of all works of the universe. Providence, P, the great superintendent, GS, that is to say, Preposterus Generalis Societas, GS, is general of the Society of Jesus. Nicholas de Bonneville, he really breaks down the Masonic allegories in this book to his T. On the next page, he talks about how the Egyptian Masons were controlled by the Jesuits as well, which Count Cagilostro founded. So I recommend you check that out. And here's another historical source before I get into the historical fiction. This comes from the book Secret Societies and Subversive Movements by Nesta Helen Webster. In 1920 it was written. I'm just going to pull up the live chat here. How's it going, everyone? Nice to see you. Good afternoon. Loud and clear, good to hear. But you see here, so in my previous video on the Rosicrucians and the Jesuits, I talked about how the founder of the Rosicrucian Society, Johann Valentin André, was in reality Sir Francis Bacon on a pseudonym. And then if the source for that you can read is in Manly P. Hall's book, The Secret Teachings of All Ages. But the Sir Francis Bacon pseudonym Johann Valentin André wrote the book The Chemical Wedding of Christian Rosencreutz. Christian Rosencreutz was a fake person. It's probably just an allegory for, again, the Jesuit General, much like all of Freemasonry ritual, like all the allegories in Freemasonry are based around the Jesuit General, much like how Sun Tzu, The Art of War, was translated by a Jesuit first. Not a coincidence. Pierre Amiot, the French Jesuit. Sun Tzu is an allegory for the Jesuit General. He wasn't some mythical Chinese general from 4,000 years ago. Okay, we see here the grand legend. So this is quoting from Nesta Helen Webster's book, Secret Societies and Subversive Movements, page 89, chapter 3 Centuries of Occultism. The grand legend of Rosicrucianism rests, however, on no historical evidence. See, because it's a total Jesuit fabrication. There is, in fact, not less in the Rosicrucian lodges today they're just mini Jesuits. They're social gatherings, but the Rosicrucians, they are politically influential, much like the Freemasons are. But they're foot soldiers of the papacy. The supposed rift between the Jesuits and the Freemasons and the Rosicrucians and the Illuminati is total bollocks. And I'll show you a quote after this here that shows that the Illuminati was actually patterned off the Jesuit order, and it's admitted by none other than the Catholic Encyclopedia. We see here the grand legend of Rosicrucianism rests, however, on no historical evidence. There is, in fact, not the least reason to suppose that any such person as Christian Rosencreutz ever existed. And that's what I concluded in my previous video on the Jesuits and the Rosicrucians. The Illuminatist von Ninge, and this is Baron von Ninge, he actually accused Adam Weishaupt, the founder of the Illuminati, of being a Jesuit. Adam Weishaupt, of course, educated by Jesuits and was a professor of canon law. Here, this is Adolf Friar Ninge, German writer, Freemason, and a leading member of the Order of Illuminati. He actually you have a member of the Illuminati whistleblowing that the Illuminati is a Jesuit-controlled organization. I believe this guy even wrote a book exposing the Jesuits in German. Here's the English title. I don't know if it's been translated into English. This would be a fascinating read. Adolf Friar Ninge wrote a book on the Jesuits, Freemasons, and Rosicrucians. And here's a list of his other works. I'm not sure if that's been translated. I'm going to try to get a copy of that. The point being, you have members of the Illuminati who were blowing the whistle on how the Rosicrucians, the Illuminati, were Jesuit-controlled organizations. Okay, back here to the book. The Illuminatist von Ninge in the 18th century asserted that, quote, "It is now recognized amongst enlightened men that no real Rosicrucians have existed, but that the whole of what is contained in the Fama and the Universal Reformation of the World," those are another Rosicrucian pamphlet which appeared in the same year, "was only a subtle allegory of Valentin André, Sir Francis Bacon, of which afterwards partly deceivers, such as the Jesuits, and partly visionaries made use of in order to realize this dream, end quote. And of course, Sir Francis Bacon's alter ego, Sir Toby Matthew, just happened to be a Jesuit priest. Huh. And this book is on my archive.org, The Life of Sir Toby Matthew, and everyone should check that out. And this is a photo here that I found that was drawn by Johann Valentin Andre, the pen-named author of the Rosicrucian Manifesto, which in reality again was Sir Francis Bacon. But you see here, Johann Valentin Andre. This was a book he titled "The Christian Republic." Here, this right around the same time the Jesuits were establishing their reductions in Paraguay. But you see here, this is the founder of the Rosicrucians, the Jesuit IHS, right on the cover of his book. And again, I covered this photo in the last video I did. So your political theologia at the top. You got the Masonic square and compass here under Historia, Mathematica, Physica, Mechanica. The Hindu Trimurti at the bottom. This photo encapsulates the whole, Jesuit control system of the world. The Jesuits ruled the world through politics and religion, Theologia Politica. Of course, they control history, with the Masonic compass underneath it. And this was the cover of a book penned by Johann Valentin Andre. Again, Sir Francis Bacon. Johann Valentin Andre wrote the Fama and the Universal Reformation of the World. These are Rosicrucian, the founding manifestos of the Rosicrucians. I'm just going to read the quote from von Ninge again. It is now recognized amongst most enlightened men that no real Rosicrucians have existed, but that the whole of what is contained in the Fama and the Universal Reformation of the World was only a subtle allegory of Valentin Andre, of which afterwards partly deceivers such as the Jesuits and partly visionaries made use of in order to realize this dream. Okay, and then von Ninge, here's from the Catholic Encyclopedia, and this is on the article on the Illuminati here. See, Weishaupt was educated at a Jesuit school. You see right there. His order was to be based on human nature, hence its degrees. This is Adam Weishaupt. Ceremonies and statues were to be developed only gradually. Then, in light of experience and wider knowledge with the cooperation of all members, they were to be steadily improved. For his prototype, he relied mainly on Freemasonry, in accordance with which he modeled the degrees and ceremonial of his order. After the pattern of the Society of Jesus, or the Jesuits, though distorting to the point of character its essential features, he built up the strict hierarchical organization of his society. I'm going to repeat that. So this is the Catholic Encyclopedia admitting that the Illuminati was patterned by Jesuit-trained Adam Weishaupt off of the Jesuit order. Yet another occult secret society patterned off the Jesuits. But we read, quote, after the pattern of the Society of Jesus, though distorting to the point of caricature its essential features, he, Weishaupt, built up the strictly hierarchical organization of his society. There you go. So this is where the Catholic Encyclopedia talks about how that Baron von Ninge, who I mentioned earlier, who quoted earlier, von Ninge accused Weishaupt of being a Jesuit. Here, but in 1783, dissensions arose between Ninge and Weishaupt, which resulted in the final withdrawal of the former, von Ninge, on July 1st, 1784. Ninge can no longer endure Weishaupt's pedantic domineering, which frequently assumed offensive forms. He accused Weishaupt of, quote, Jesuitism. Again, this was a guy that was in the Illuminati, so I think he's going to know. And then von Ninge accused Weishaupt of Jesuitism and suspected him of being, quote, a Jesuit in disguise, end quote. Okay, so you see how the Jesuits, it's not just historical fiction that the Jesuits are totally in control of these occult organizations. It's historical fact. But it's brought up in this historical romance novel in this very interesting dialogue, which I'm now going to read on the channel. And again, this is from Louise Muhlbach's book, Old Fritz in the New Era. Yeah, how's it going, guys? Oh, and gematria, G sunburst equals 33. There you go. Interesting fact. Well, actually, it's interesting. In this book, actually, Nicholas de Bonneville says that it's on page 4 of the it's on page 54. And of course, Jesuit order equals 54 in gematria. But de Bonneville says on page 54 of the Masonic constitutions, it's actually quoted that every Mason is a Catholic. I actually put that quote on my YouTube community page. Now that I got to mention or show you that now that I brought that up. But yeah, I'm just going to bring this up before I start reading the historical romance excerpt. But you just got to go down here. And actually, here's another proof of Jesuits and Masons here. I put this on my website too. The Jesuit priest William Matthews S.J., while president of the Washington Library, that's the library of the city of Washington, purchased its building location from the Freemasons, and that was all the way back in 1827. So you see the supposed rift between the Catholic Church and the Freemasons is a total joke. In this book here, it even talks about how the Catholic contractor of who designed the Capitol building of the United States, a Roman Catholic, James Hoban Jr., became a master Mason. Clearly no rift between the Catholic Church and the Freemasons. Okay, but you just go down here. I post a lot of stuff on my community page. I recommend you guys all check it out. But here it is here. This is a quote from de Bonneville's book. He's on page 54 of this Book of Constitutions, and this is the Masonic Book of Constitutions, was published in 1723. But I thought it was interesting. On page 54 of this book, it says this again: the Jesuit order equals 54 in gematria. That's why Bilderberg Group, founded by Jesuit Joseph Rettinger, was founded or formed in 1954. You see, on page 54 of this Book of Constitutions, it is said that, quote, all Masons must be of the Catholic religion, end quote. There you go. Okay, we're going to get back here, though, to the Louis Malbach's book. So this is I linked this in the description. You'll be able to find this book in the description. But yeah, so this is the chapter here on the Jesuit General. But the author kind of describes what her goal was here with this historical fiction novel in the preface. There's the book here, Old Fritz in the New Era by Louis Malbach. Copyright 1868 by D. Appleton and Company. You see, historical romance should be nothing but an illustration of history. See, if drawing, grouping, coloring, and styling such an illustration of any given historical epoch are admitted to be true, then the illustration rises to the elevation of a work of art worthy of a place beside the historical picture and is equally useful. So she modeled this whole book to be, again, kind of like a fictional dialogue based on real historical fact. And she talks about this here in the preface. Okay, so now we're going to get to the chapter here on the Jesuits. Okay, so this conversation starts here between Count Alessandro Cagliostro, who I again showed you here, and his wife, Lorenza. I'm just to get her full name. It's even mentioned on his Wikipedia. Alessandro Cagliostro. Yeah, there's a picture of his wife here, Lorenza Seraficia Feliciani. So his wife is in this dialogue too. There's a photo over there. Okay, so that we get back here to the book. Again, this is from Louise Malbach's book here, Old Fritz in the New Era. This here, chapter 12, the Jesuit General. So this goes into the historical fictional dialogue here. No one remained in the drawing room but Cagliostro and the beautiful woman who lay quietly on the couch upon the throne. Cagliostro approached her and, raising the veil, regarded her a moment with an expression of the most passionate tenderness. Quote, "We are alone, Lorenza," said he. She opened her great eyes and looked around the dimly lighted room. Then fixing them upon Cagliostro, who stood before her in his brilliant costume of magician, she burst into a merry laugh, so loud and so irresistible that Cagliostro was seized involuntarily and joined her. quote, "Oh, was it not heavenly? Was it a glorious comedy? And did I not play divinely Joseph? Was I not bewitching as the goddess of nature?" End quote. Quote, "You look truly like a goddess," and that's what Lorenza said. And then Cagliostro says, quote, "You look truly like a goddess, Lorenza, and there is nothing more beautiful than you in heaven or upon earth. But come, my enchantress, it's time to break up as we are set off early tomorrow morning." End quote. Then Lorenzo says, quote, "How have we now much money? Was the tribute richly paid?" And Cagliostro replies, quote, "Yes, we have 100 Louis d'Ors and a diamond ring from the mistress of this house." Quote, "Give it to me once," cried Lorenza. Then Cagliostro replies, quote, "Not the ring, Lorenza, but the diamond, so soon as I have a false stone set in the ring, which I must keep as a ring in the chain which will bind this woman to our cause." End quote. And they're actually talking about the empress or the mistress of the Prussian Emperor Frederick the Great. We'll get more to that as this story unfolds. Quote, "Was I not astonishingly like her? Was it not almost unmistakable? Lorenzo said, quote, "Yes, wonderfully deceptive. I shuddered myself as I saw the dagger pointed at your bosom." Quote, "And the blood, how it gushed forth, Joseph." End quote. Lorenza burst into a merry laugh again, and Cagliostro joined her, but suddenly stopped and listened and turned toward the door, which he had closed after Birchoff-Schroeder departed. I found this is referring to here, this character, Birchoff-Schroeder. I have that up here. He was General Heinrich Rudolf Birchoff-Schroeder, and you see here, after the third partition of Poland in 1795, the former royal land was given to General Heinrich Rudolf Birchoff-Schroeder for merits for the Kingdom of Prussia, who sold the property to Count Luschatau, who then sold it to Magi von Waldorf-Wielicki. There's a source here, but this guy was an historical figure here, General Rudolf Birchoff. Kind of a mouthful. You see here, so the Cagliostro joined her, but suddenly stopped and listening, turned toward the door, which he had closed after Birchoff departed. It seemed as if he had heard a noise, a peculiar knocking. 4 times it was repeated, and Cagliostro waved his hand to Lorenza not to speak. Again were heard the 4 peculiar rhythmical sounds. Quote, "Be quiet, for heaven's sake, to be quiet, Lorenza. Let me cover you with the veil. It is a messenger from the Invisibles." See, this is where the Jesuits start to get invested. The Invisibles. And this whole chapter in the book is on the Rosicrucians. So you see the invisible fathers, just like in Freemasonry, there's the invisible, like the whole system of who, like having an unknown superior or quote unquote an invisible father is present all through the Freemasonic degrees. It's the Jesuit General, as we will see here. Cagliostro flew to the door, unbolted it, and stood humbly near the entrance. A masked figure. You see here, so the Jesuit General is a masked figure. A masked figure enveloped in a cloak opened it and entered, rebolting it. Slowly turning towards Cagliostro, he harshly demanded, quote, "Whose servant are you?" End quote. So that's a quote from the Jesuit General. "Whose servant are you?" The Cagliostro responds, quote, "The servant of the invisible rulers and fathers," he humbly answered. Back to the Jesuit General, quote, "Who are the invisible fathers?" Cagliostro responds, quote, "The 4 ambassadors of the great general of the exiles." And this dialogue was written during the period of the Jesuit suppression from 1773 to 1773 to 1814. Back to the Jesuit General here. Call him by that name which he bore before a heretic pope in Rome, that being Ganganelli, Pope Clement XIV. A weak empress, a free-thinking emperor in Germany, a lost in sin French emperor, and a heretic Spanish minister condemned him to banishment and destruction. End quote. And then the Jesuit General continues, "Jesuit General of the Jesuits," he answered, respectively, bowing lower. Quote, and then it's still the General, "Do you know the sign by which he may be recognized?" Cagliostro then responds, "Yes, by a ring with the likeness of the founder of the order, the holy Ignatius Loyola." Then back to the General, "Then look and recognize me," cried the mask, extending his hand to Cagliostro. Quote, "The General," he murmured, frightened, gazed at the ring upon the small white hand of the other. Quote, "The holy founder of the order himself." End quote. He seized his hand and pressed it to his lips, sinking upon his knees. So this is the Jesuit general seizing the hand of Cagliostro while he's wearing a mask. The mask remained standing before the magician as lowly as he might bow himself, who is still arrayed in his brilliant costume with the band upon his brow sparkling like diamonds. With a cold, reserved manner, he answered, quote, the Jesuit general says, quote, I am he and come here to give you my commands by word of mouth. And this is Cagliostro responding, quote, command me. And this is where you're going to see Cagliostro as a total puppet to the Jesuit general, a complete total puppet, like selling his soul to the Jesuit general. Command me. I am thy humble servant and but a weak tool in thy hands. And repeat that. So this is the Knight of Malta occultist Count Cagilostro. And we're going to see, and if you read Tupper Saucy's great book, The Rulers of Evil, which is on my archive.org page, I'm just going to show you where you can find that here. If you go to Eric Bowman 77, Tupper Saucy proves that Lorenzo Ricci, the general of the Jesuit ordered at the time of the suppression, did not die in prison, which is, again, the story of how Cagliostro supposedly died. Count Cagliostro was supposedly brought in by the Inquisition for being a Freemason when the G in the Freemasonic square and compass symbolizes the general of the Jesuit order. Like, but this little dialogue that we're going to read here shows that Count Cagliostro was actually smuggled out of prison by Jesuit priests. So I think it was probably a similar situation like Lorenzo Ricci, who did not die in prison but continued the Jesuit endeavors during that time of the suppression. Because during the time of the Jesuit suppression, when Lorenzo Ricci was in prison, they created the Illuminati. The Jesuits did. They created the United States of America. They masterminded the French Revolution, for instance. They brought Napoleon to power. The Jesuits were very busy while they were suppressed, quote unquote. They wrote Sun Tzu's book, The Art of War. So, again, Lorenzo Ricci, according to official history, died in a prison in Rome, just like Count Cagliostro, Knight of Malta, occultist, supposedly did. So I'm blown away. I think that's a bunch of BS. I think Tupper Saucy lays it out well in this book, and I think it was a similar situation with Count Cagliostro, that he definitely did not die in a prison in Rome when he was brought in by the Inquisition. But it's interesting in this dialogue, as we're going to see, that but Cagliostro actually admits his guilt, and he was brought into the Inquisition for falsifying documents. And he actually says that he falsified the documents on request of the Jesuits in the first place. Cagliostro says, quote, command me, I am thy humble servant, but a weak tool in thy hands. Okay, and then this is the Jesuit general responding here. It is my will that you should become a powerful tool in my hands. Rise, for I will speak to the man who must stand erect in the storm. Rise, end quote. And then back to the author. The proud commander was now a humble, obedient servant. He rose slowly, standing with a bowed head. Quote, and this is the Jesuit general. When and where did we last meet? End quote, demanded the mask. And then Cagliostro replies, quote, in 1773 at Rome. And then the Jesuit general comes back, quote, in the year of curse and blasphemy, said the mask in a harsh voice. And that was the year that the Jesuits were suppressed by the Pope. Quote, the year in which the infamous Pope Clement XIV condemned the Holy Order and hurled his famous bull Dominus Redemptor Noster. The Holy Order, condemned and disbanded by his infamous mouth, were changed into holy martyrs without country, without possession or rights, as persecuted fugitives wandering around the world, to the wicked a scorn, to the pious lamentable example of a virtue and constancy. Exiled and persecuted, you fled to a house of one of our order, and there we met, and there for the first time we met. So we're talking about how Cagliostro fled to a Jesuit novitiate while he was being persecuted, and that's where he met the Jesuit general. The daughter of this man was your beloved. Tell me, why did you conceal yourself after flying from Palermo? I see if the elevated one ungratefully forgets the days of his degradation. Quote, and this is Cagliostro. They accused me in Palermo of falsifying documents by which rightful owners were deprived of their lawful possessions. They threw me into subterranean dungeons, and I was near dying when the invisible protectors rescued me. That's what, and again, according to Count Cagliostro's quote official history, he died in prison. And here in this historical fiction, he's saying that the Jesuit invisible protectors rescued him. And this is back to the Jesuit General. Was the accusation well-founded? Had you committed the crime you were accused of? And back to Count Cagliostro. Yes, he says, answered Cagliostro in a low voice, quote, I was guilty. The Jesuit General says, quote, for whom, by whose authority? And Cagliostro responds, quote, for the pious fathers who commanded me, for the pious fathers who commanded me, and whose pretensions to the possessions of the Duke Costa Rica were clearly proved by those documents, end quote. And this is the Jesuit General then who responds, quote, you then learned the power and gratitude of our order. From underground prisons, they freed you and procured a way of escape to Rome to find a safe asylum in the house of a believer. And again, this Count Cagliostro, just before I continue, there's a whole bunch of Jesuit Hollywood stuff named after this guy. Like in the movie Doctor Strange, there's the quote, there's the Book of Cagliostro, which is like the main theme throughout the whole movie. So that just makes it interesting. So you see in this dialogue, he's a total puppet of the Jesuit order, and Count Cagliostro gets kind of worshipped in Jesuit Hollywood. But continuing, but just at that time, condemnation burst upon us, and from a powerful order, we were changed into a persecuted one. The forger Joseph Basalmo, and that was another name for Count Cagliostro. The forger Joseph Basalmo sought the brazier Feliciano, who gave him money, letters of recommendation, and instructed him how to serve the order and procure an agreeable life for himself. Is that not so? End quote, the Jesuit General says. Cagliostro responds, quote, it is so, answered Cagliostro softly, quote, it was the order of the general which united you in marriage to your beloved Lorenza Feliciana, who initiated you in the secret sciences and the secrets of nature, that you might employ them for the well-being of humanity. End quote. So here's the Jesuit General saying it was actually the general of the Jesuits who actually got Cagliostro married to his wife, Lorenza, who I showed you a picture of earlier. That's very interesting. And Cagliostro responds, quote, it is so, master. And then, quote, the Jesuit General says, you implored also, as you were about to separate, to see the face of your benefactor, to engrave it upon your heart. Would you now be able to recognize it? Cagliostro says, quote, I could in an instant among thousands. The general, so back to the author here, Louise Mulbach, the general slowly raised the mask. A pale, emaciated face was visible with the great black eyes and sunken sockets, thin, bloodless lips, and a high, bony brow. Do you recognize me? The Jesuit General says, quote, no, sadly answered Cagliostro, it is not the same face, end quote. So I guess in this dialogue, Count Cagliostro would have been reading. So the first time he would have met the Black Pope would have been with Lorenzo Ricci. I'm just getting the order here of Black Popes. So Cagliostro would be meeting with this Black Pope in the dialogue here, Stanislav Cernowicz, who is a Lithuanian Polish Jesuit who became Black Pope in 1782. So that's kind of what's going on there in the dialogue. So no, sadly answered Cagliostro, it is not the same face. And this is the Jesuit General responding here, quote, you see, my son, man changes, but knowledge not. I am another, yet the same, for the outward human form is only the vessel of the eternal band into which everlasting truth and the holy doctrines are poured. Oh, my bad here. If the vessel breaks, it is replaced by another in an inexhaustible spring. Thought and holy knowledge flow into the renewed vessel. I am a new vessel, but the same spirit which formerly spoke to you. I know your past life and for what purpose you are in the world. As the general then spoke to you, so speak I now. The unholy have put holy under a ban. They have persecuted and condemned us. And again, this is all bullshit too, because like the Jesuits were admitted into Russia by Catherine the Great. So, Jesuits weren't, universally persecuted all over the world, whatsoever. Continuing, the Holy Order of the Fathers, and that was during the time of the suppression that they were allowed into Russia. And of course, the Jesuits just came back into existence in 14 with 25 times more power. But we read on, the unholy have put the holy under a ban. They have persecuted and condemned us. The holy order of the Father of Jesus is lifeless before the world, but not before God. Jesuits do not die. Jesuits do not die, for they bear eternal life in them, and there will a day come when they will burst forth from darkness into light. Go, my son, and help prepare the day. Help smooth the way that we may walk therein. Have you obeyed? The Jesuit General says, quote, and this is Cagliostro's response, quote, I have consecrated my whole life to it, Your Eminence. He's consecrated his whole life to obeying the Jesuit order. I have wandered around the world and everywhere striven to disseminate the doctrine of the invisible fathers and win disciples in adherence to the order. The brothers of the Egyptian Masons, the brothers of the Rosicrucians, are disciples which I have won, and you know well there are many mighty, illustrious men among them. End quote. So here's Cagliostro saying, again, this is an historical fiction or historical romance dialogue, which the author said that she intended to base off of historical fact. But Cagliostro is again saying that Cagliostro has won brothers of the Egyptian Masons and brothers of the Rosicrucians over to the Jesuit cause. And he says the Jesuit General knows there are many mighty and illustrious men among them. Very interesting. But here's the Jesuit General's response here, quote, I know it, and I am satisfied that you are an active and useful tool. Do you see like how much more Count Cagliostro is a puppet in this historical romance write-up? And again, this is kind of just shows proof that the Jesuit order is in total control of, all occult secret societies. Hey, how's it going, everyone? I'm seeing the chat. Yeah, I'll read out some of the comments near the end of the video. But you see the Jesuit General continues here, quote, I know it, and I am satisfied that you're an active and useful tool. This I came to tell you that I might stimulate and advise you. Great deeds you shall perform, great achievements, and the holy Ignatius Loyola announces by my mouth. The world lies in sin, and the devil strides victorious over it, since the holy order has been prescribed and persecuted by the wicked. The devil is arrogant process and boasting reason. They who listen to him think themselves wise when they are fools and speak of their enlightenment while they still wander in the dark. To combat this reason, to oppose this intelligence is the task of our order, which will never die. For God sent it forth to the world to fight the devil of progress. See, the Jesuit General is calling progress a devil. Again, yeah, this lines up historically with Pope Pius IX's 1864 Syllabus of Errors, which according to historian Peter J. Doiswick, that 1864 Syllabus of Errors was ghostwritten for Pius IX by Jesuits. Pius IX eternally condemns progress. Think of that. He eternally condemns it. Again, the Catholic Church wants to keep humanity as humanity existed in the dark and Middle Ages. Serfdom, for the masses. A docile populace. As I read the encyclical from Pope Pius X on my video on John D. Rockefeller. So according to the Jesuit General here, for God sent it forth to the world to fight the devil of progress. Again, progress is the devil, and progress is the devil who is the ruler of darkness. I have observed you, I have followed you, and I am satisfied, but I await still greater things from you. And then Cagliostro says, quote, what shall it be? And quote, speak, O master, command and I obey. And here's the Jesuit General, quote, this is an incredible excerpt here. This is the Jesuit General giving Count Cagliostro orders here. It says, quote, you shall strive throughout Europe for the restitution of our holy order. You shall subject it to all minds, make the rich, the powerful, the eminent, and great serviceable to it. Think about what's going on right now in society. It's the Jesuit playbook. They've always, subjected the rich and powerful into their plans and gotten them on their side. Just look, I covered the story of Jeff Bezos' dad donating $15 million to the Catholic Church. And actually, if you haven't seen it, this was way back in my video feed. I actually showed how I did this video probably almost a year and a half ago now. I showed that this was just from stories I Google search or Jesuit search. I spent probably 30 minutes on it searching That's all it took. So you can see, like, if you actually had like resources, like let's say like resources of like a congressional inquiry of how much you could dig up versus me doing a YouTube channel by myself, Googling. But I found that just through the Google search that the Jesuits have acquired over $1 billion in philanthropy since 2010 from just public donations to their school from the rich and affluent members of society. Point being that the Jesuits, court the rich, and they always have. So that's what the instruction here from the Jesuit General is to Cagliostro. I'm just going to read the quote again in full. You shall strive throughout Europe for the restitution of our holy order. You shall subject it to all minds, make the rich, the powerful, the eminent, and great serviceable to it. Into the orders of the Rosicrucians and Egyptian Masons, you shall gather all the stray and isolated sheep into a flock to await with the longing the coming of the shepherd and prepare a place for him. To the Holy Church you shall consecrate the band of brothers, the only blessed church, which is the lofty abode of the Father of our order. To us belongs the world. She's saying to us, the Jesuits belongs the world. And again, actually, I showed on my website how if you look at Webster 1828 dictionary, the world is actually defined as the Roman Empire. The Jesuit General says, to us belongs the world. You shall assist to reconquer it. Unbelievers shall be fought with every weapon. And this historically lines up with the Jesuit oath here. So he says, every deception, slander, persecution, and murder are holy if used for the benefit of the holy order. You shall shrink from nothing which is useful and beneficial for the sublime goal. The murder of a prince is no sin. See, John F. Kennedy in the United States, Abraham Lincoln in the United States. So many examples throughout history. King Henry IV of France gave Protestants more rights, so he had to die. See, the murder of a prince is no sin, but a just punishment when it is necessary to remove a mighty enemy. If you create revolutions, cause nations to tear each other to pieces in grim civil war, these revolutions will be sanctified. The Civil War is blessed. Again, Abraham Lincoln blamed the United States Civil War on the Jesuits. The civil wars will be blessed if they serve to strengthen the power of our order and gain victory at last against the opponents. Only through our order, the Jesuits, can happiness re-enter the world and mankind be rescued. If the Holy Fathers do not sit in the council of princes, if they are not the conscience of the powerful and steer the machine of the state, the world goes to destruction and mankind is lost. You shall help, my son, to turn aside the evil and prepare happiness for the earth. You have already done much, but much more is required. Go work miracles. Belief in them sanctifies the mind. Our fathers, the Jesuits, will sustain you everywhere, for you well know that they are always present, though it is imagined they are not. The infamous Ganganelli, that being Pope Clement XIV, has stripped them of their uniform, but not annihilated them, as we are and ever shall be. I have sent out 9,000 brothers in Europe for the benefit of the order, and you will recognize them by the watchword. They will serve you as you will serve them. If danger menaces you, our brothers will know it and rescue you. You will be unassailable so as long as you work for the order and win disciples for it. Prussia is our important station, as you rightly judged. And that's Prussia, like Russia. Prussia was a country where the Jesuits were admitted to during the suppression period. And they became confessors to King Frederick the Great of Prussia. And again, it's interesting how Frederick the Great and Catherine the Great are referred to as the Great because they admitted the Jesuits into their country. Kind of comical, but that's why Frederick the Great is kind of worshipped like in a cult-like way in the system of Scottish Rite Freemasonry, because again, the Jesuits historically created Scottish Rite Freemasonry. It's a fact, a historical fact. And again, this book here is an historical romance dialogue on the historical fact that the Jesuits created modern Freemasonry, the Rosicrucians, and the Illuminati. You see here, Prussia is our important station, as you rightly judged, and I extol you. And this is the Jesuit General saying this again. Prussia is our important station, as you rightly judged, and I extol you for your foresight. You prepare the future, for here it will be. When the royal mocker of religion dies, then comes a new kingdom, and the Rosicrucians will rise to power. I think this is saying that even though that Frederick the Great is actually giving the Jesuits asylum, because he officially was a Protestant, he's calling him a royal mocker of religion. And this guy was a total like phony Protestant, serving the Jesuits. What kind of Protestant lets Jesuits into their dominion? The history, just look at the St. Bartholomew Day massacre, for instance. Endless massacres. The Jesuits prolonged the 30 Years' War to try to exterminate Protestants off the earth, but this Protestant king, is admitting them. But this just shows, kind of the Jesuits look down on their own puppets. I think that's what this is saying. So when the royal mocker of religion dies, then comes a new kingdom, and the Rosicrucians will rise to power. Oh, there's Nick messaging me there. Actually, I sent Nick over the Discord. I found a source from the United States Congress in 1850, where they talk about how the Comte de Saint Germain is a huge figure in occultism. They talk about how he was referred to as a Jesuit in some circles. Oh, Nick's in the chat. You actually have Nick. I'll invite Nick on to. If you're still there, Nick, after I'm done reading this, I'll invite you into the StreamYard. Yeah, definitely. Nick's the guy who found this great source here. So I'd love to get your input. See here, but the Jesuit General continues: vices as well as virtues must serve us. Therefore, Bischofswerder, and I showed you that's a real historical general. Therefore, Bischofswerder and Wilhelmine Enke, and Wilhelmine Enke was the mistress of King Frederick the Great of Prussia. This is her here. The Jesuits are very historically, they've loved to influence the mistresses of kings to get secret information on the kings. You see here, Wilhelmine Enke was the official mistress of King Frederick William II of Prussia. She was elevated by him into the nobility. There you go. So I bet historically, this author, studied her history. Historically, I bet, this mistress was, being courted by Jesuit fathers. Yeah, but we continue here. Bischofswerder and Wilhelm Enke are useful means for holy purposes. That you have recognized it, I praise you. Continue, my son, as you have begun, and you shall become powerful upon the earth. Not a hair of your head shall be touched so long as you are faithful to the invisible fathers. But soon as you turn traitor to the holy cause, you are lost, and our anger will crush you. So this totally aligns historically with the Jesuit oath. Cagliostro, this is essentially Cagliostro taking the Jesuit oath. He says here, quote, "Never will I turn traitor," cried Cagliostro, holding up his hands as if taking an oath. Quote, this is the Jesuit general's response. "I hope not. Our enemies shall be your enemies, and our friends your friends. If one of the brothers orders you in my name, kill this man or that woman, so kill them. Swear it." So that literally lines up with the Jesuit oath, which says that you will be, the ends justify the means. You will murder and rip out the wombs of any heretic if you are given instructed to do so, unhesitatingly. You see here, shuddering, Cagliostro repeated, quote, "I swear it," end quote. The Jesuit general responds, "As soon as one of the brothers orders you in my name, rescue this man or that woman. So do everything, even risk and sacrifice your life to rescue him." Cagliostro says, "I swear it." Quote, and then the Jesuit general says, "You stand in the holy temple of the order, but also under its avenging sword. Be mindful of it in all of your acts." So this is where he threatens Cagliostro, where you're gonna and you just see the total docility of Count Cagilostro here, being a total this spineless puppet of the Jesuit general. The Jesuit general now threatens Cagliostro to continue being a good puppet, or they're going to kill him. Straight up, you see here, quote, "You stand in the holy temple of the order, but also under its avenging sword. Be mindful of it in all your acts. The world is open to you, and our influence will be with you everywhere. You shall win the hearts of the great and mighty to us, and place the order of the Rosicrucians on the step of the throne. The great Kopka shall lead believers to us." And this is the great guy. That's the great Kopka. That's kind of like how I think the Zerubbabel, Nicholas de Bonneville talks about Zerubbabel, how like in the Rosicrucian degrees. That's it's just the great Copta and Zerubbabel are just kind of Rosicrucian mumbo jumbo that the Jesuits created as allegories for themselves to kind of dupe their initiates into thinking that they're actually becoming enlightened with the allegories and But yeah, but this is referred to. This is the Jesuit General here, the great Copta. The Cagliostro says, quote, "The great Copta will perform all that you command, as he is the only humble servant of his general," said Cagliostro. So the great Copta, so in the Rosicrucian system, so I guess that's like the Rosicrucian leader who is doing the will of the Jesuits. You see, Cagliostro says the great Copta will perform all that you command, the Jesuit General, as he is only the humble servant of his general. Said Cagliostro, kissing the hand extended to him. So this now, so you see the complete docility and submissiveness of Cagliostro now kissing the hand of the Black Pope. This is the Black Pope's response. Quote, "Do not kiss the hand, it is only that of an inferior mortal. Kiss the ring, for it is the imperishable sign of our immortal saint." That's what the Black Pope said. Cagliostro responds, quote, "I kiss the ring of the immortal Ignatius Loyola and swear eternal fidelity, constant obedience, and firm love until death." Quote, and this is the Jesuit General, "Rise, for the time has come for us to separate. I have provided for the journeys the necessary means. Here are letters of recommendation to Warsaw and Matau, others to Paris and London, but the most important of all, letters of credit upon well-known bankers." So you're just going to see here. So the author shows how the Jesuits are completely controlling the cartel capitalism of the day. And just look at the scandal of Jesuit Pierre Father Lavalette when he was involved in the French colonies, doing all investing in slave trading and land speculation. He got into a bunch of debt, and the order actually had to financially bail him out. It was brought up at the French Parliament. Just look at. I've read on the historical sources in my video on the John D. Rockefeller, on how much wealth the Jesuits had in the province of Mexico at the time in the 1600s. I've read, the Jesuits had billions of dollars in today's currency, operating from the reductions in Paraguay. The Black Ship missions in Southeast Asia were giving the Jesuits billions of dollars in today's currency. But we continue here. The Jesuit General says, "But most important of all, the letter he gives Count Cagliostro, letters of credit upon well-known bankers to the value of $500,000. This was in like the 1780s. So this that would probably be in the hundreds of millions today, if not billions, all valid through delivered years hence." Cagliostro cries, "500,000, cried Cagliostro, almost terrified. He's never seen that much amount of money. And then the Jesuit General says, "Does 500,000 astonish you?" Like it's chump change to him, repeated the general, and his grave, fleshless face was distorted into a smile. Quote, "The great Copta must travel and live like a prince." So again, the great Copta is like in the Rosicrucian cult, that's what like their initiated master is referred to. And again, it's a Jesuitical cult, Rosicrucianism. "The great Copta must travel and live like a prince, that he may dazzle the eyes of the brothers and subjugate the minds of the powerful. We give you the money, but remember you are always under the watchful eye of the order," the Jesuits. "And there is no spot on earth where you can hide yourself from our vengeance with the trust confided in you. You shall spend it to buy souls and win thrones, for hearts and consciences are sold. Money will buy everything." Yeah, these guys, the Jesuits are in reality a military order, but they come off on the surface as if they are, pious priests who abide by biblical morality. You can see here that that's absolutely not true. Just read, there's a book that was written titled "The Principles of the Jesuits." Actually, when we get Nick on here, I know Nick put extracts of that book in a recent post he did up on my website. But the book, "The Principles of the Jesuits," is written in 1837 or so. It's the author just extracts texts from Jesuit writers themselves, and you can just read the absolutely appalling morality. The Jesuits, the ends justify the means. Lying is okay, murder is okay. I mean, anything is okay for the greater glory of God, to increase the power of the Pope. So the general says, though, does 500,000 astonish you? The general, again, I read parts of this quote before, but I'm just going to read it all again. The great Copta must travel and live like a prince, that he may dazzle the eyes of the brothers and subjugate the minds of the powerful. We give you the money, but remember you are always under the watchful eye of the order, and there is no spot on earth where you can hide yourself from our vengeance with the trust confided in you. You shall spend it to buy souls and win thrones, for hearts and consciences are sold. Money will buy everything. Take your letters of credit. You shall live as a great lord, and the great Copta shall be equal with princes. End quote. So that's what the Jesuit general said. Back here to Louis Malbec. He handed Cagliostro 5 sealed letters, that being the Jesuit general, quote, and he says, they are made out for 5 years, only one for each year, as the number indicates. Number 1 is for this year, and number 5 is only valid at the expiration of 5 years. The order is mindful of your security, and thus 5 years of your life are freed from earthly care. You shall work in spirit, and you shall enchant the world, and that it may be saved through the only saving church and the holy order. End quote. Actually, if you want another historical source, just read the absolute appallingness of Jesuit morality. I believe I even put this up on my website years ago. With Theodore Greisinger's book, great German author. This book was translated into English. Yeah, I did this over 2 years ago. Yeah, this is this was kind of this is right when I was getting my website started. I only had like 15, less than like 10 members of this post. So this one didn't get much traffic here. But these quotes, Theodore Greisinger's book, The Jesuits: A Complete History of Their Open and Secret Proceedings from the Foundation of the Order to the Present Time. You read, you can get great information on the appallingness of Jesuit morality. And yeah, these are some of the quotes on the screen here. Let's see, I want to get the ones with the state. This is just an example of a Jesuit morality here. So this is the Jesuit Father Felicius. Says, quote, when one asks whether it is allowable at times to take an equivocating oath, a secret mental reservation being kept concealed, I answer yes. Only the chief thing that the answer must be so framed according to the question that afterwards another interpretation may be given to it, if it be found necessary and difficulty not be occasioned by so doing. This just gives example of, just more Jesuit morality here. Quote, when one cannot sell his wine at the price he considers it to be worth because it's considered to be too dear, he can give smaller measure and mix it with the small quantity of water. So again, so just think of the drug dealer analogy. This is like if you were selling like cocaine or something like that, and you can mix it in like toxic, substances like fentanyl and baking, put baking soda in it or whatever, whatever toxic stuff to, dilute the product and to make people sick and make you more money. Like the Jesuits, these are priests saying that that's okay. You see here, when one cannot sell his wine at the price he considers it to be worth because it is considered to be too dear, he can give smaller measure and mix it with a small quantity of water in such a way that everyone believes he has the full measure and that the wine is pure and unadulterated. But in reality, it isn't. So I'm just going to give some examples of this. I'll read one or two more excerpts. And then this is morality on all aspects of life, not just politics here. Therefore, he says, when a needy person on account of sickness or lack of employment is not in a position to supply his wants or by his own work, he has the right to abstract it from the rich by secret or open force, the superfluity of the latter. And this is from the Jesuit Anthony Escobar. Therefore, it is further stated, when thou findest a thief who has the intention to rob a needy person, thou must restrain him from doing so and point him out to another rich person who may plunder instead of the needy one. So that's the Jesuits saying, like, it's better to rob rich people for the greater glory of God than poor people. So if you're stealing, the Jesuits say, this is Father Pierre Aragon. He says, quote, is it allowable for anyone to steal in consequence of the straits in which he finds himself? Quote, answer, yes. you're allowed to steal. Yes, this is allowable. Let it be either secretly or openly, but only when man has no other means of meeting his wants. There must also be no question of either oppression or robbery, because according to the rights of nature, all things are common property. Jesuits are communists, while everyone is obliged to preserve his life. Yeah, so there's an example of that. But, there's much more, but you just see an example of the repulsiveness of Jesuit morality in that there's excerpts from Theodore Greisinger's great book on the history of the Jesuits there. Didn't mean you want to get too off guard, but the point being that this is an historical fiction dialogue that I'm reading out of, but it's based in historical fact. So I'm just going to read that quote again. So the Jesuit Black Pope handed Cagliostro 5 seal letters saying, quote, "They are made out for 5 years, only one for each year, as the number indicates. Number 1 is for this year. Number 5 is only valid at the expiration of 5 years. The order is mindful of your security, and thus 5 years of your life are freed from earthly care. You shall work in spirit, and you shall enchant the world, that it may be saved through the only saving church and the holy order," the Jesuits. Back to the author here, Louis Malbec. He, the Jesuit general, bowed a farewell, making the sign of the cross upon Cagliostro, and bent his steps to the throne, raising the veil which enveloped Lorenza, Cagliostro's wife. She, Lorenza, looked up to him, the Jesuit general, with glowing cheeks and sparkling eyes, smiling. By this she would express her thanks for the princely gifts to her husband, and swear to the general her delight, her fidelity, and love. He regarded her as coldly and calmly as a physician, patient. Quote, "Yes, Holy Father, I have heard it all," she said with a sweet flute-like voice. Quote, "My heart is filled with gratitude and emotion." And here's back a quote from the Jesuit general. Quote, "Prove it by assisting your husband to attain the goal for which we sent him forth. I have already said that vice must serve virtue, Lorenza. Beauty is a power, and if it serves holy purposes, so it is sanctified. Employ your beauty to win adherence to the order and to extend the power of the Rosicrucians in every land and among all nations." Quote, "I swear that this shall be my holiest endeavor," cried Lorenza, rising. The general pressed her back upon the pillow, saying, quote, "Remain, for there is no one here for you to enchant. I bring you pardon for your sins and an indulgence for every sin which you will commit, if you swear to serve faithfully the Holy Church and the pious fathers of Jesus." The general says, quote, "I swear," solemnly cried Lorenza. Quote, back from the Jesuit general, "Here's the letter of indulgence from Pius VI himself. Here's the letter of indulgence from Pius VI himself, made out in your name for you. Take it and perform your duty," the general said. Quote, or back to the author, "He laid down the parchment provided with the papal seal upon her shoulder, and drawing upon the veil over her, made the sign on the cross, saying, quote, 'I bless you and give you absolution for your sins.'" And then back to Count Cagliostro, the puppet knight of Malta, founder of Egyptian Freemasonry occultist. He says, quote, "Bless me also, Lord and Master," cried Cagliostro, kneeling upon the lowest step to the throne. Quote, "I bless you in the name of Loyola." And this is back from the Jesuit general. "I bless you in the name of Loyola. Remain upon your knees and follow me not." He extended his end quote. He extended his hands over him and blessed him, and then slowly withdrew. And this is back to the author here saying this, Louis Malbec. "The first beams of the morning sun shone through the great window panes, lighting up with its golden rays Cagliostro's kneeling form. He remained with his head bowed until the general had passed out. Quote, "He is," and this is from Cagliostro, "He is gone. Heaven praised, he is gone." So this shows that shows how scared Count Cagliostro was of the Jesuit general. And that actually reminds me of the quote from Joseph Rettinger's memoirs, the founder of the Bilderberg Group, how he said that when he met Jesuit General Władimir Lidachowski in Zurich, Switzerland, that it was like a very scary, dark, gloomy room that he met the Jesuit general in. And you can kind of tell that Rettinger was scared of him, and just the way he wrote it in his memoirs. Quote, "Cagliostro is scared of the Jesuit general. He is gone. Heaven be praised, he is gone." Quote, "Yes, he is gone," repeated Lorenza, springing forth from the couch. Quote, "Is it true he has given you $500,000? That's what Lorenza asked. And this is, you're to see how much, so Cagliostro admits to selling his soul here at the end. Cagliostro held up with a triumphant air the letters, quote, "See the addresses upon the first banking houses in Rome, Paris, London, and Berlin." And that shows historically that the Jesuits were controlling all of the banking houses throughout Europe. But Lorenzo then replies, quote, "Do you believe that they are genuine?" Cagliostro says in response, "I am convinced of it." Lorenzo then says, quote, "Then we have attained our aim. We are rich and powerful." And this is how this chapter ends here, which is fascinating. "No," answered Cagliostro mournfully, quote, "we are poorer than ever. This money makes us slaves, makes us dependent tools. Did you not hear him say, 'You are admitted into the temple, but the avenging sword of the order everywhere hangs over you'?" Like the sword of Damocles. Yeah, that's that dialogue there. But you just see in that chapter how Count Cagliostro is depicted as an absolute total tool of the Jesuit general. And this comes from how the Jesuit general is the ruler of the Rosicrucian society, because this comes from the chapter in the book, or book 2 within the book, titled Rosicrucians and Powerful Geniuses. You see here the Jesuit general. Yeah, but here I'm gonna give Nick an invite here on StreamYard. Just give me a second here, and I'll read out some of your guys' comments in the chat. This was a great find by Nick, an incredible historical romance excerpt. It reminds me of just a quote from Tom Clancy. Tom Clancy, of course, was Jesuit trained. He kind of did more non-historically accurate romance fiction. But Tom Clancy, his CIA character Jack Ryan, in his book Red Rabbit, says that Jesuit products rule the world. It reminded me of that quote, this excerpt that Nick found. Obviously, your invite. Yeah, I just sent Nick an invite. I'll check the chat. Yeah, no worries if you're you got stuff going on, Nick. Yeah, I'll read some of the comments here. Oh, you guys debating on the? Yeah, I don't go into whether the JFK death was fake or not. To me, I think it's kind of counterproductive. I think the productive thing to talk about how is the church had all of the political advantages of the Kennedy assassination. Kennedy was rebelling against the church, didn't want to pass the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, which gave them billions and billions of taxpayer dollars. Kennedy murdered or took out the Catholic dictator of South Vietnam, Ngo Dinh Diem, which was a huge pet project of the Jesuits, establishing feudalism in Southeast Asia. Kennedy took out the Diem brothers. Kennedy wanted to limit the CIA or Catholics in Action's ability. He wanted foreign policy. Actually, he wanted the CIA to actually no longer have control over foreign policy decisions and National Security Memorandum 55. He wanted the Joint Chiefs of Staff to do that. So there are many reasons for Kennedy posed a threat to the Jesuit order. And to me, it's kind of going into, because he was a Knight of Columbus, he was, well connected with the church. So, theoretically, if they were going to do a massive psyop like that, he was plugged in to do it. But I think it's counterproductive to go into was he assassinated or not. I see Nick is in here now.
Yo, what's up, man? How's it going?
Oh, it's doing good, man. How you doing?
Oh, man, I'm doing great. So good to hear from you, man.
Oh, good to hear that, man. Good to hear. It was nice. You're doing a fantastic work too. I recommend everyone watching. Subscribe to your channel, N Goods. In particular, your recent video on the LGBT connection to the Jesuits was amazing.
Oh man, every day I find even more information on that. Like, it was already 3 hours long, but it there's just so much you can only put in so much, so.
Right, absolutely. I find that all the time. Like, I do a video and I'm like, oh shoot, I wish I put that in there. I missed that.
Like, for instance, this is just one thing I found that I actually put in the bibliography I added after. But so like LGBTQ month is like June, right? Or right? So it's like the month of June. The Jesuit order renews their vows in the month of June.
There you go.
So like
Another tidbit.
yeah, it's some other stuff. But yo, I
Well,
posted in
just
the
recently, well, just of course, people aren't aware. You covered it in the video, but just big kind of signaling that they're controlling that movement was James Martin's recent book. Jesuit James Martin, president of America magazine, wrote a book kind of endorsing homosexuality, and the Pope came out and endorsed the book.
Yeah.
So that should tell people everything on that. But yeah, everyone should check out that video of Nick's. You get over 3 hours of jam-packed research. All of it's cited very well. So everyone should check that out. Yeah, Nick, just covered this. This was an absolutely amazing find here with Louis Malbec.
Yo, it's hilarious.
Count Cagilostro.
Yo, so like, whatever anyone's opinion on Blavatsky is, I'm not gonna say my opinion. Whatever your opinion is on her. She wrote a famous essay called on Cagliostro not being a Jesuit. Well, I don't know. It's just like, it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny. That's all. I'm sure you've read that article as well. Cagliostro, charlatan or something.
Right. Yeah. She didn't think he was a charlatan. All the evidence to me shows that he was a charlatan. Actually, I got my screen shared here. I found a Masonic website where they go into some of this here. Where was that? Right here. Count Cagilostro today at masonrytoday.com. We talked about how Cagilostro just more connections to the Catholic Church that I wasn't aware with him. Just that he was also, including being a Knight of Malta, he was a novice in the Catholic Order of St. John of God.
Nice.
An order founded in 1527. And it says here when Cagliostro went to Rome to begin his work in 1768, he worked for a cardinal.
No, yeah. That's exactly. He was like patronized by him. He got like patronage from him.
And then supposedly, and again, I talked about in the video how like I call in complete bullshit on him dying in prison in Rome. Supposedly the Inquisition.
Oh yeah. Well, apparently the Abbey of Thelema in Sicily that what's his face incognito Jesuit priest Aleister Crowley named his Thelema order or theology after. That Mussolini visited. Well, apparently Cagliostro either founded it or visited it as well. So there's another connection. That's all connecting today. And and that's the thing, because Aleister Crowley said he was the reincarnation of Cagliostro, who's a Jesuit Knight of Malta.
Well, absolutely. And you read the quotes on your video on the LGBT connection with the Jesuits. You read those quotes from Aleister Crowley where he praises Ignatius of Loyola.
Yeah. He says he pretty much brags about he's being more of a Jesuit than the Jesuits. And I posted this in the chat, but so of course Cagliostro, as the story goes, he was imprisoned in Castle St. Angelo, which is the ancient Tusculum, like going back like pre even Roman Empire, like Roman Republic, like Tusculum Castle. It's very ancient. And anyways, it's right across from St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican City. It's like the key. It's like the key at the end of the key, whatever. Anyways, Cagliostro was in prison there September 27th. When was the Jesuit order founded? September 27th. He was in prison there September 27th, 1789. Lorenzo Ricci was imprisoned in the Castle St. Angelo on September 22nd, 1774, almost 15 years before. And of course, we all know Lorenzo Ricci, the professor, was intentionally imprisoned there with the underground tunnel from the Vatican to Castle St. Angelo. So they're both in prison there. This book talks about the Jesuit General visiting Cagliostro. And, I think the Jesuit General referred to here is obviously Lorenzo Ricci, because the time, and of course, Lorenzo Ricci did not die in 1775. He must have, when he was like 74 or something. It says he obviously lived on past at least 1776.
Well, right, there's historical sources. Like this initially comes from the book "Our Flag" by Thomas Campbell, but I first saw this in Manly P. Hall's book "The Secret Destiny of America." But there was this obscure figure that was present in America at the time when they were designing the U.S. flag, and he was referred to as the Professor.
Yo, that's awesome because this and it all comes back to like people think like America's like always been Freemasonic. Now it gets more and more Freemasonic as time goes on. Like the mall, the Washington D.C., which was purchased, the land purchased, the Little Rome on the Potomac was purchased by Francis Pope. That's what his name was, a Roman Catholic landlord. And anyways, the same with the dollar bill. The dollar bill was designed by the Papal Secretary of Treasure, I believe, or not the Papal Secretary, the Secretary of Treasure under FDR, and or was it Woodrow Wilson? I don't know. Anyways, he was a Knight of Columbus who designed the all-seeing eye, the famous dollar bill. And I also posted this in the chat. Guess what the address or like the number address for the Piazza del Gesù is, like the Church of the Gesù. So not the Borgo Santo Spirito, the Jesuit headquarters in the Vatican, but like the mother church of the Jesuits in Rome.
Well, I assume, is there like a 33 or like a 666 incorporated?
Yeah, you're gonna love this. Just reverse the numbers. Number 45, Piazza del Gesù.
Oh, 45, 54, yeah.
54. Just gets better.
That's been kind of enlightening for me to see how the Jesuits worship that number 54. I think it equals the Jesuit order in gematria, and it made sense. It perfect sense to then. I mentioned earlier in the video why the Bilderberg group was then founded in 54 by lay Jesuit, possible ordained Jesuit priest Joseph Rettinger. And I have his memoirs that people can read. I put that up on my archive.org account.
Yeah,
thank you, Nico, for I would say thank you for linking these sources in the chat. I'm going to check them out after we stop streaming here.
Yeah, you can find the number 45 Piazza del Gesù. It says guards. This is from F. Tupper Saucy's Rulers of Evil, 1999, on page 114. It just says guards took the general into custody at his offices in number 45 Piazza del Gesù. They removed him to the English college, blah, blah, blah. But so now if you go look on the Wikipedia for the Church of the Gesù, it doesn't tell you what the address is. It tells you it's something else. So they must have changed. And this must have been 45 at the time. So, or they just, Wikipedia is wrong. But the coordinates of it though are 45 north degrees or something like that. Just press in Control F and then type in 45 and it'll come up with the coordinates on it. But on Wikipedia for the thing. But yo, all the people she references, Louise in this historical romance, all the people she references like Woolner and who is the other guy?
Oh, I got this one guy here. Oh yeah, Bush. What was this? I found this General Heinrich Rudolf Bischofschwerter.
Yeah. Yo, they are all cited on my website in a lot of historians. Like first of all, the guy, the Woolner, his real name or his full name is who is this by? This is by Freemason historian Joseph G. Findel in his History of Freemasonry. He says this. He says, but above all, Johann Christoph von Woolner in Berlin, first who became publicly an apostle of the new Golden Rosicrucian Order, and then, well, he talks about how he's like connected to the Jesuits, and the other guy, because I don't want to read it, it's really long, but yeah, the other guy, the who is it, the Bushwonder dude. I don't know his name. Forget his name. That guy that you referenced earlier. He's also on my website. You can just type it in and find it. Yeah, but so there's many makeup institutions of the Rosicrucians. So that there's the original Rosicrucians that were founded in 1610 to 14 with the 3 Rosicrucian manifestos. written by Jesuit priest Toby Matthew.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah. So the historically official history credits it to Johann Valentin Andre.
Yeah.
If you do more digging, it's found that that was actually Sir Francis Bacon.
Yeah.
On a pseudonym, and then Sir Toby Matthew S.J. was Sir Francis Bacon's best friend.
Yeah, and that's why Andreas Valentina is Johann Valentina's Andreas got the Jesuit monogram on his book cover for Mythologiae Christianae, whatever that you showed previously.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'll pull that up again here.
And the thing is about that front cover is that that Jesuit monogram, IHS, Isis Horus Serapis with the black sunburst, androgynous squiggly straight lines, that wasn't a well-known symbol. Like, it was known as the Jesuit symbol, but if you went up to someone randomly on the street, you go, what is this symbol? It would be very new. The order was just created like 60 years prior. So
yeah, it was less than 100 years old. Yeah, it wouldn't be common knowledge. That's
yeah, sure. It's not like seeing like the all-seeing eye, like, or something like that. Like, which was already a Catholic symbol, by the way. The all-seeing eye is not a Freemasonic symbol. It's
well, I was improving this is that Nick, when I was in I got the opportunity to visit Bern, Switzerland a few years ago, and I walked down to the main cathedral there in Bern, and right on the entrance of the cathedral was this huge all-seeing eye pyramid. This is at the entrance of the Catholic cathedral. It's this huge all-seeing eye pyramid with sun rays coming out of it. And I was at the time, I'm like, wow, this is Jesuitism, 101.
Yeah, the all-seeing eye is literally in every single Catholic cathedral. You just look up in the fresco or like the murals on the top of the ceilings. There's at least one somewhere, or in the altar somewhere.
Yeah, and then actually in the book I'm holding up here, I read some of the quotes earlier in the video. Nicholas de Bonneville said in the Rosicrucian literature, the all-seeing eye is again a reference to the Jesuit General.
Yeah, and so there's a difference between Freemasonry and Masonry. Like the Masonic, like just Masonry, like just constructing buildings with mortar, bricks and mortar. That was first founded by the College of Masons in the Lombard region of the ancient Roman Empire, which is northern Italy. So it always goes back to Rome somehow. So if you want to go ancient, we're not talking about ancient. When people say Freemasonry, they go, the Freemasons like to, and a lot of people who are misinformed, most authors who try to expose the Freemasons will try to tell you that Freemasonry is ancient. It's not ancient. Freemasonry is modern, as in it's the last 350 years. That's how modern it is. It was not here yesterday. Masonry is obviously ancient, but the people back then who were studying the mystery schools of whatever region it was, Sabian Mandaism, Manichaeism, whatever, Zoroastrianism, who gives a shit? It was like, that's not what Freemasonry is today. They will convince you it is. That's what the Jesuits did when they wrote the 33 Degrees, is that they convince you this is the ancient mysteries, but it's not. It's the old, everyone knows it's the oldest old boys club. It's all BS. You never learn anything. Everyone knows you never learn anything.
Well, Nick, that's why I think the Jesuits kind of dispatched authors like Manly P. Hall. And I used to I have a bunch of this guy's books. I used to read a lot of his books. So I think I've kind of came to this realization by just reading his books and then contrasting it with Jesuit history. But guys like Manly P. Hall are just sent out to glorify Masonry. As you said, that it's this wonderful tradition that goes back to the sublime Eleusinian mysteries.
Yeah, and the Eleusinian mysteries are what the Ignatian spiritual exercises are based off of, according to Marie Anne Cussack in her book, The Black Pope. And, it's funny, Nicholas de Bonneville, and he joined the Bavarian Order of the Illuminati, which is not the only order named the Illuminati. Obviously, there's the Illuminati of Avignon, which was created in like 1740 in France. And then there's the Alumbrados, the original progenitors of the Jesuit order in Spain. Alumbrados means Illuminati. That's where they got the name of. Of course, Adam Weishaupt was an ordained Jesuit priest. His parents died when he was a little boy, and he was raised and educated by the Jesuits solely. He became the head of canon law at the Jesuit University of Ingolstadt. The book by Shelley, or forget what her last name is, Shelley something, Frankenstein, Frankenstein is created in the Jesuit College of Claremont. So Frankenstein's obviously an allegory, and she was a Roman Catholic, the author of
Well, absolutely, yeah,
Frankenstein.
you're spot on that. Yeah, Frankenstein, the character, was educated at a Jesuit school.
Yeah, and he's
Absolutely, he's an
created
allegory.
by the or the mad scientist. The mad scientist is the Jesuit order creating Frankenstein, the Illuminati. And in 1790, Nicholas de Bonneville joined the Jesuit created order of the Illuminati. And it's funny, the Jesuit order suppressed the order of the Illuminati in, I think it was 1796.
Yeah, I know that's referenced in R.W. Thompson's book, The Footprints of the
That's
Jesuits.
genius. So this is what I always say to people. They create things, then they blow their cover as to say they only infiltrated it, and then they infiltrate it by blowing their cover by saying we're out of here, and then they create it even further, and then they destroy it, and then they create another thing, and they infiltrate it, and then they, you know what I mean? Like it's a never-ending cycle of deception. And this is why the heads of Freemasonry in Germany, France, Scotland, Spain, Portugal, Italy during the 1700s were all going back and forth with each other. What do the heads of the Masons in Germany say? What do the heads of the Masons in France say? Like, what are the secrets, guys? What are they? We don't know what they are. We forgot what they were. And because the Jesuits destroyed it all. They literally rewrote everything, and there's no way to even trace what could have been if it ever was. And that's the whole point of Freemasonry. That is Freemasonry in itself. It's a complete political prison. And that's what Jean-Marie Ragon says. He says the Jesuits created the Tori Acta Latomorum, which is the great unknown work that's always attributed to the Templars, but it was a forgery created by the Jesuits.
Absolutely, Ragon's another amazing. Yeah, people can read French. I don't believe it. Well, I don't think his book talking about the Jesuits has been translated into English. But yeah, if you could read French, yeah, Jean-Marie Ragon is another incredible source for how the Freemasonry goes back to the Jesuits. And again, like you said, Freemasonry is a very modern creation. 1717. All of it, it's even in the official Masonic encyclopedias that the Jesuits at the College of Claremont were influential in writing the founding degrees of Freemasonry. But you see here, I put this on the screen share. This kind of just shows what you said, how they create these groups and then they blow their cover and then create division amongst them. But this was at Freemasonry in Costa Rica. This was found. This guy has a great website. He posts into the Jesuit World Order from time to time. The site's called matrixthebeastsystem.freeforums.net. You can see here he shows this photo from a Freemasonic site, the John Warren Lodge. And it says here, Father Francisco Calvo was a Catholic priest who started Freemasonry in Costa Rica in 1865. And he says here, just his analysis says, there goes the theory that there is a mutual antagonism between Freemasonry and the Roman Catholic Church. It's all a show. Freemasons are foot soldiers of the papacy. And this is what Tupper Saucy wrote about in his book here, Rulers of Evil. He said that there was a need to create a system of Freemasonry because it was a counter the Reformation ultimately.
Yep.
Because again, a Freemasonic group can pose as Protestant. But
so that's why when the Jesuits say like we're against Freemasonry and we're against liberalism, their definitions, guys, are not your definitions. You think they're saying one thing that's completely opposite to what you thought they were about. You're like, I thought they were here to destroy Freemasonry. They say they're here to destroy Freemasonry. Guys, they're Satan. Why would they tell you what they're gonna do as the fact that that's like what they're gonna do? They're opposite. They're the opposite. They do the opposite of what they say. And like, so it's a never ending cycle of lies that you have to cycle through. They wear all masks, all garbs, all names. They know all customs, languages, right?
Well, actually, that's why I'm kind of puzzled just with Blavatsky, because I know she wrote about what we were just saying, how the Jesuits, wrote the degrees in Freemasonry to dupe the initiates into thinking that they were actually receiving real wisdom when it was just recycled, manufactured material from Jesuits and Roman philosophers like Cicero, for instance. But at the same time, she praised Count Cagilostro, which is kind of like
Well, if you read that article she wrote on Cagliostro not being a Jesuit, if you read it like properly, I had to read it like 3 times. She all throughout it she can't even deny it herself that it's kind of odd how he did all this and that. And then she tries to allegory his death by saying he became immortal because he's never been like lost to history. Like, okay, yeah, that doesn't mean you are resurrected from the dead, but like, and then therefore, and she like let's say he wasn't a Jesuit, who cares? He still was a Knight of Malta. That's a military Roman Catholic order that was taken over by the Jesuits in 1818.
Well, absolutely, and I found he was an
like,
order.
How are you gonna like someone who's a part of that order?
Well, absolutely. And he worked for like I saw you from the Masonic website. He worked for a cardinal in Rome.
Yeah.
He's a member of the Order of Saint John of God, a novice in that society, which is a less known Catholic secret society, but nonetheless another Catholic secret society. So I think definitely, and he was accused of being a Jesuit by numerous people at the time. They got lots of people at the day, and like he's known, like there's many books and journals written on his charlatanism, particularly with his Egyptian Freemasonic degrees, because Cagliostro set up the quote unquote Egyptian lodges in Europe in 1781.
Yeah.
All of that was charlatanry, though. Just recycle, take material from the older degrees, and repackage it with new names. It wasn't any type of divine revelation.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the here. Hold on. No, yeah, it's hello. Here, hold on. Yeah, no, go on. Where is it?
Well, I think it's the same thing. Alberto Rivera, just in terms of Freemasonry, the ex-Jesuit Alberto Rivera, came out and said that every black pope is a Freemason.
Yeah, and people go, "Oh, therefore the Freemasons control the Jesuits." It's like, dude, he wears that ring so he can like deceive anyone who's deceived by it. If you're deceived by it in any way, whether it's be a Freemason who thinks like, oh, the Jesuits are also part of my order, or whether it be people who are not Freemasons who are saying, oh, therefore the Freemasons control the Jesuits in the Roman Catholic Church, or whether it's to deceive the Jesuits themselves in thinking that, oh, we must join the Freemasons to become further into the Jesuit order or something like all three are lies. They're all lies. It's you'll wear the ring for whoever it deceives. Like, you know what I mean? So you got to think about it that way. People don't think hard enough, I guess.
Oh, absolutely. And you got, saying like this book I'm holding, you got books written by Masons themselves saying that the G is the general of the Jesuit order. The Bonneville breaks down all the degrees were modeled off, the Jesuit system. I don't know if you can see a photo here. It breaks down Masonic degrees, Jesuitical degrees. See, it's the exact same. And it gives off the same acronyms even.
Yo, so this is, I finally found it. That's a great find. I finally found it. So this, okay, whatever you want to take, I don't know. I can't scream at share on here for some reason, but whatever. Well, maybe I can. Can you? Oh, you can. Screen share.
You can see there's like a kind of a plus. It's in between the
here we go.
mic and.
Can you see this?
Okay, I'm adding your screen to the stream. Yep, you're good.
Okay, so this is from Blavatsky's Was Cagliostro a Charlatan? By Lucifer, which doesn't even appear in the Bible. If you guys don't know, it's a made-up translation. It's not a translation or a transliteration. It's a substitution. And it was put in there by Roman Catholic Saint Jerome. Okay, yeah, okay. Anyways, volume 5, number 25, pages 389 to 95, January 1890. Here's the link. But if you read the article, Alessandro Cagliostro, I believe, was protected by the Jesuits, as that book says, and I believe his death was faked by the Inquisition. that Inquisition loves to say they're persecuting this person, but they're not. Just like the Inquisition loves to say they're persecuting like books written by Jesuits, advocating for whatever homosexual rights or whatever it is this time, right? But you guys got to remember in Count Paul von Hodenbroek, 14 Years of Jesuit, Volume 2, like on the 7th page, he literally says the Roman Inquisition was reestablished by Pope Paul III and given over to the Jesuit order in 1542. It's theirs. The Inquisition is theirs. So the Jesuits being persecuted by the Inquisition? I don't think so. But anyways, I don't know if you would want me to read all this, but this is like the most, it gives more, it's more on Cagliostro, but.
Yeah, definitely. If you want to, I probably got another 20 minutes or so before I would have to sign off here. But yeah, definitely go for it. Cagliostro is the theme of the video, so if you can get more info, that'd be great. And I'll just remind people in the video or earlier in the stream, just Jesuit Hollywood has kind of idolized this guy and turned him into like a huge cult figure. He's
in the Disney movie Fantasia, right? Isn't he the wizard? Balsam Cagliostro in Fantasia by Disney.
Well, I haven't seen that movie. That would make perfect sense. There's the Book of Cagliostro and Doctor Strange. He has movies named after him.
I'm pretty sure the wizard in Fantasia, which is obviously like straight up MK Ultra. I'm pretty sure Fritz T. Springmeier in his Bloodlines of the Illuminati, which is straight up Jesuit futurism and like BS. He says like he goes through a whole chapter about how the movie Fantasia, like minute to minute, is like MK Ultra, and I'm pretty sure the wizard in it, the Mickey Mouse wizard, is based off Alessandro Cagliostro. It even says it on the Wikipedia page.
Well, actually, on Wikipedia, people just go to Alessandro Cagliostro's Wikipedia. The bottom section is all these references in Pope culture. Just for instance, like in Samurai Jack, season 7, episode 3, Samurai Jack follows a quest for the crystal of Cagliostro. For instance,
Yo, so
he's all over Hollywood. Like,
so check this. This is a historical backup that Blavatsky writes that she couldn't even deny. That was written after the book that you just read. So she could have read that book and then came out with this book. But this is what she says. She says, in France, we find Cagliostro having before served as a confidential friend, the Grand Master of the Knights of Malta, becoming the friend and protege of the Prince Cardinal de Rohan. The chief cause of his life troubles was his marriage with Lorenzia Feliciani, a tool of the Jesuits, being a native of Sicily. What?
Well, so Blavatsky said, and in that dialogue I just read, Lorenza, his wife, is depicted as a tool of the Jesuits. So Blavatsky calls her a tool.
Yeah.
Also. Well.
And then he says, being a native of Sicily, Cagliostro was naturally born in a family of Roman Catholics, no matter what their name, and was brought up by monks of the Good Brotherhood of Castiglione. Cagliostro, even today accused of having served the Jesuits as their spy. Cagliostro, charged with being the most cunning and successful impostor and charlatan of his age, accused of belonging to the Jesuit chapter of Clermont in France, of appearing as a proof of his affiliation to the Jesuits in clerical dress at Rome. His letter to the new mystical but rather motley Brotherhood of the Lodge of Falathias is proof in point. The Falathias, as all Masons know, was a rite founded in Paris in 1773 in the Lodge des Amis Réunis, based on the principles of Martinism. Now, if you go check out Martinism on my website, Martinism was also a tool of the Jesuits. Just type in Martinism on my website.
Yeah, I believe that was a Catholic movement. Well, I just know like Alexius Levy was connected to that. Who other I'm aware of, so like Pierre Guénon, another like a big Catholic occultist. He was affiliated with that. No, absolutely. You got that all sourced on your website. People should check that out.
Yeah, it says blah blah blah. It says that which was performed by the author of L'Étoile Flamboyante in the interests of alchemy had been previously attempted in the interests of theurgy and Kabbalism by Martinez de Pasquelli, founder of the sect of Illuminés, from which Martinism was afterwards developed. Martinez de Pasquelli was long supposed to have been in Portugal of Jewish origin about the year 1715, but he was actually of Spanish and he was actually of Spanish nationality and was no doubt originally or always a Catholic. And that's from Arthur Edward White's book, A New Encyclopedia of Freemasonry. And he talks about openly admitting that he is a Jesuit temporal coadjutor. But anyways, I also have some more things about Martinism.
Just refer just because just recap that because Arthur Waite's a big figure in Freemasonry. So you're saying so he says that Cagliostro was working with the Jesuits.
Oh no, Martinism.
Martinism.
Yeah.
Martinism. Gotcha.
Yeah, but if you want to go to my website, guys, and check out his, he's the guy who literally developed all the tarot cards that witches use and like occultists use. It's the Arthur Rider-Waite tarot deck, the most famous, influential tarot card, and he talks about like working with the Jesuits and stuff in his own works that are on my website. But so back to this thing. Blavatsky says Cagliostro and Mesmer. And Mesmer, Franz von Mesmer, was educated by the Jesuits at the Jesuits University of Freiburg. The inventor, I believe it was that. He's Jesuit educated, though. Even Nikola Tesla admits it. Anyways, says the inventor, as the Tori Acta Latomorum describes him in Volume 2, page 95. The Acta Latomorum, the great work, was a forgery of the Jesuits, according to Freemasonic historian Jean-Marie Ragon. And of the doctrine of magnetism. So Mesmer. Now it was, I'm pretty sure it was Mesmer who came up with the idea that animals and like love and magnetism, and it was all this occult BS, whatever. Talked about like how love is like magnetism and like animals like develop love through magnetism, whatever. Anyway, so he says the grievance of the lodge was that Cagliostro, this lodge of Philathius, the grievance of that lodge was that Cagliostro, who had first promised to take charge of it, withdrew his offers, as the convention would not adopt the constitutions of the Egyptian rite, nor would the Philathies consent to have its archives consigned to the flames, which were his conditions sine qua non. His answer to that lodge should be regarded by Brother R.H. Mackenzie, I have quotes of him on the Jesuits on my website, and other Masons as emanating from a Jesuit source. So this Freemasonic lodge, which got its previous rights from the Jesuits, but didn't know, thinks that Cagliostro is a Jesuit. So they continually over and over infiltrate Freemasonry. And it says, it speaks of the celebrated Count de Cagliostro, who has recently arrived with his wife from Trent, the place where the Council of Trent, the Council of the Trident, was started in Italy, Florence, I believe.
Yeah, accursed be all heretics.
Yeah. They said it 70 times, I believe. Accursed 70 times. What a joke. Talk about a seance. It says via Turin to Rome. Now, Turin to Rome. What happened in Turin? Just look up the Waldensian massacre, where the Jesuits got the Roman Inquisition to absolutely massacre the Waldensian Protestants in Turin. Like, I'm talking about massacre. We're not just talking about kill them. Just look up pictures of it. Absolutely insane. He says he has a letter of introduction from the Bishop of Trent to Albany. This is Cagliostro. He has a letter of introduction from the Bishop of Trent, the Roman Catholic bishop of the council, the place where the Council of Trent started for the Counter-Reformation. A council invoked by the Jesuits, the longest Roman Catholic council ever. And it says, from another letter, we learn that Rome had proven an ungrateful soil for Cagliostro. Of course it did, because that's the blown cover's cover. Tell them, and we'll make it known to them as well, that you're not welcome in Rome, right? And it says, the Vatican authorities, who had hitherto left the Count undisturbed, suddenly laid their heavy hand upon him. This is the blown cover's cover. In a letter dated January 2nd, 1790, just a year after Cagliostro's arrival, it is stated that last Sunday, secret and extraordinary debates in council took place at the Vatican. The council consisted of the state secretary and Anne Notelli, Pelota, and Campanelli, Monsignor Figurenti performing the duty of secretary. The object of that secret council remains unknown, but public rumor asserts that it was called forth owing to the sudden arrest on the night between Saturday and Sunday of the Count de Cagliostro, his wife, and a Capuchin monk Fra Giuseppe Morgio. And it says the count
Yeah,
is
definitely. I'm calling complete bullshit on his arrest. I think that was totally staged. And
yeah.
I'm sure it was done at the time too to give like the masses the perception that the Catholic Church is, like we said, like it's all an illusion, but it's to give the masses the perception that the Catholic Church is at war with Freemasonry, the quote unquote synagogue of Satan.
Well,
It's all just to make the Catholic Church's image, look holy and sanctity. Look, we're on the service. We're persecuting the Freemasons who. I just think it was all.
When you persecute someone, you get them to they want to join it, right? They go, you guys are against the Roman Catholic Church, right? I'm a Protestant. I want to know more. Like you guys are against the Roman Catholic Church. They go, absolutely.
Oh, great point. Yeah, Protestants see that the Masons are being, quote unquote, persecuted, and then they align themselves with Freemasonry and join a counter-reformed organization.
Yeah, and some of those Protestants who say that and what you just said, some of those are Jesuits too. So they pretend to be Protestants who hate the Catholic Church and want to be Freemasons who hate the Catholic Church. Those guys are Jesuits too.
Well, another example of this kind of, when people read the Jesuit oath, they're really chameleons. They're going to assume any, group and infiltrate anybody for the greater glory of God.
Yep.
But Sir Francis Bacon's pseudonym Johann Valentin Andre was known as like a Lutheran minister.
Yep.
And
I have all the founding Jesuits of the Rosicrucian Order on my website under Superior General. I think it's Matteo Vidaleschi or Michelangelo Tamburini. I forget which one. No, it's Matteo Vidaleschi. I have all. Wait, no, it's not. No, yeah, sorry. Go on though. But if you want to know that, they're all listed.
Okay, no, I'm saying that's very fascinating. I was just gonna say that Bacon, like Johann Valentin Andre, the pen name pseudonym Sir Francis Bacon, when he adopted this Jesuitical disguise as a Lutheran minister in his writings, and in his writings he would just rail against the Calvinists. So that's an example of the Jesuits trying to fracture, the Protestant opposition to them. The Protestants fighting amongst themselves over kind of petty theological concerns while the order is in the background amassing more power over their domains.
Yeah, and wasn't it you, or maybe it was someone, Johnny or Felipe or someone who connected like the Rosicrucian rows of Martin Luther? Didn't you connect that to being not even attributed to him? Like he never actually wrote that? Might have been you. It might have not been you. It doesn't matter if you don't remember.
Well, I know that comes from. This is where I think that accusation. Like I first found that in Manly P. Hall's book, Freemason, his book, The Secret Teachings of All Ages. So I'm sure, like my opinions on Luther, I've changed over the years, but I think that they could have made that accusation out there to possibly slander the Protestant movement.
For sure. I heard it from someone that it wasn't like when you go look it up, it's like written, it's like on a document that he wrote or something. And if you go and do further research, it's actually that wasn't even on there originally, or like that note isn't even by him or something. It had something to do with that. And like it's also like he wrote a book about hating the Jews. I forget what it was called, The Errors of the Jews or something. And apparently out of all the things that Martin Luther wrote, that language and that writing style in that book is completely different from his other work. So it could have been written by someone else and attributed it to him.
Well, absolutely. I was saying the Jesuits are masters at assuming pseudonyms.
Right. And they created the art of they created archaeology and paleontology. They founded both. So just think about that, guys.
Well, there's a whole thing on people. That's okay. That's a whole other topic of discussion, just for all the subjects that the Jesuits have created. Like I know Napoleon's Jesuit Joseph Saez, Abbé Joseph Saez, he's credited as the founder of modern sociology. Napoleon's Jesuit. But it's kind of people just want to kind of just see kind of how sophisticated thinkers the Jesuits are. Just look at a list of Jesuit scientists on Wikipedia. You can make the argument that all of our, modern science, has a foundation, with the Jesuits.
All right. Well, you know what I'm going to do?
They're all over it. Like I'm saying, they even they read the fourth edition of Sir Isaac Newton's book, the Principia, is known as the quote Jesuit edition.
Yeah, the third edition, and the third edition is the final edition.
Oh, the third edition, yeah, not the fourth.
It's the third edition. It's the final and official edition. It's the Jesuit edition. And then you read on some by Catholic historians, they go, well, it wasn't actually written by the Jesuits. It was written by Franciscans. And it's like, okay, of course you don't want it to be known. They can't even deny it's not written by him. It's written by Franciscans. But even that's BS, because of course they just don't want it to be known as being attributed to the Jesuits. I'm pretty sure Isaac Newton has like a statue in Rome of him somewhere, connect in like a Roman Catholic cathedral. It's in like the Da Vinci Code, which is don't even get me started on that.
Oh, actually, well, just a proof that actually, this. Yeah, I know I probably got to get going here soon, but I'm just going to read the quote from Jesuit priest Daniel Aloysius Lord, where he wrote the Hollywood Motion Picture Code. But the Jesuits don't, like, they want to stay in the shadows. They don't want people aware of them whatsoever. They're happy to rule in the shadows. But he says that Lord, speaking on the 1930 Hollywood Production Code, he says, my own connection with the code was kept, and this is from his book, page 303, 304. It says, actually, no, I'm just going to screen share this here so people can see what I'm reading out of here. Actually, no, actually, you got yours. Keep your screen share. Never mind. I'll just read it out here. But Daniel Lord says, quote, my own connection with the code was kept almost unexplainably secret. It surprised me that a little of none of the gossip columnists of the day made it a point. And this is the interesting part here. He says, I was much relieved that bigotry got no chance to scorn the code because it was the product of a Jesuit. End quote. They're just kind of boasting about how they kept his authorship of the Hollywood Motion Picture Code silent, or they kept it silent, his authorship, because they didn't want it to become common knowledge that a Jesuit priest, the same Jesuit priests that he said were mastering the Inquisition and running the Inquisition, were involved in creating the production code for Hollywood. Might have alarmed, some Americans who had some historical knowledge.
Right on. And I'm not gonna read the rest of this obviously because I have to go too. But here I made a Google Docs of this document I made. It's just literally the most important part. I get rid of all of Blavatsky's like emotional opinions and like takes. Well, obviously we proved her work to be wrong. But
sorry, Dick, just to jump in. So I just want to confirm. So everything you were just reading out of there was from Blavatsky's article? Because like everything she was saying, it makes it sound like Cagliostro was a total Jesuit.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. She couldn't even deny it. But all these little points where it's like, if you could see, it has the parentheses with the dots. Those are all spots where she like goes off on some emotional like rant about how like, well, actually, and she doesn't provide any proof. These are all the poor parts that she like couldn't deny. And so I made a Google Docs of it, and I don't know, I don't have what is it called, admin rights on your YouTube channel, but here I posted it in the private chat. Maybe you can post it in your in the
Discord. Actually, I'll give you I'll make you a wrench so you can start posting, or give you a wrench so you can start posting stuff in the
and then I'll just post it in the live chat, and you guys can read the rest. But it goes even further.
Well, that's an amazing story. Well, I'm sure people just type in Blavatsky Cagliostro on Google. I'm sure that writing that will come up.
Like, I have it linked. I have it linked.
Writings are well archived.
Yeah, I have it linked on in the Google Docs. Where the heck is your channel? Oh, there it is. Here we go. Did it work? Oh, I think you have to add me after I comment. You know what I mean?
Oh, on Discord?
Oh no, in the YouTube chat. In the YouTube chat.
Oh, the YouTube one. Oh. Let me see here.
Yeah, I just commented it. Or I'll just comment again. Ayo.
Even if you send it to me, Dick, I'll pin it on like after the video is done.
Okay, here you go. I posted it in the Discord. Yeah, post that in the live chat for the peoples.
Okay, yeah, I got that here. Links coming. Yeah, so this is the excerpts from Blavatsky's article on Cagliostro, where it becomes pretty evident that Cagliostro is actually, a Jesuit coadjutor.
Yeah, and I don't want people to think like I took out her opinions that were like actually good. I just literally took what she wrote and got rid of all of her personal, emotional, wants and needs. And I just like I have it linked. I have the original linked right at the bottom, so you can go read the original after or before, and you can be the judge. I don't care. You can't deny the fact that Cagliostro was a Jesuit priest at most, a Jesuit spiritual coadjutor at least, and a Knight of Malta patronized by a cardinal, and he was imprisoned in the same place as the Jesuit Superior General was during the same time, and he got.
Actually, Nick, just to me that confirms it. I'm glad that you brought that up because I wasn't sure if it was the exact same prison that Ricci was at, but that shows to me that it was a totally fake persecution. And then again, in that historical romance novel by Louise Malbec I read out earlier in the video, it's Cagliostro talks about how the invisible fathers, quote unquote, of the Rosicrucian Society, aka the Jesuits, are the ones that actually got him out of prison.
Yeah, and if you guys want to know more about the Invisible Fathers, or sometimes it's also known as the Invisible Superiors, or the Invisibles, or the Invisible Hierarchy, literally just type in "invisible" on my website here. Post it, and if you want to know how to search on it, it's just my website's just an index. So just type in Control F or Control F3. I don't know what it is on Mac, and then just type in "invisible" in the search bar. Here, I can post it in the Discord and you can post it. Anyways, but yeah, that's all I had to say, man. Yeah, it's just funny stuff. Yeah, but I pretty much have every single famous Freemasonic historian and their works. Like I went through all of them in like 2018. I went through all of their works. That like I had to buy some of them. You had to like. Some of them are public, some of them are not. And then I just went through all of them and I found all the Jesuit citations and I put them all on my website from every single one you could think of. He's on there.
Absolutely. And your Nick's website for everyone in the watching is in the description now. I'm going to pin it as a top comment. It is an absolute wealth of information.
Yeah, I also like to say that website has not been updated. Well, actually, anything but quotes, like new quotes and new people, anything but that has not been updated. So everything that I wrote, I have not updated since early 2020. So I have much more to say. Some things I disagree with what I'm saying. Some things I have more information on. So, whatever. Just read the quotes. Don't read me, but you can if you want.
All those quotes will show that the short story I read earlier in the video, although being fictional, is an accurate depiction of the dynamics intersecting between the Jesuits, the Rosicrucians, and the Freemasons. You see the total docility of an obedience that the Jesuits require their pupils to submit to. In Cagliostro, you just see how docile and how obedient he was to the Jesuit general in that entire dialogue.
Yeah, and remember, guys, read the introduction, preface, whatever, where she talks about how everything she's saying is historical fact. And she pretty much backs up being a historical romance as being more true than even history, because history has to abide by like they can't put any nuance into it. And you just got to read the introduction, the preface that Eric talked about at the beginning, because it's good. And because you'll read the chapter that he read and you'll go, yeah, but did it really happen this way? She even says that. Was it really this way? Did it really happen that way? The history proves it does. There was a Duke of Prussia or Germany, I believe, who accused Cagliostro of being a Jesuit as well. I forget what it was just a Duke, like a high nobility prince or something. I forget what his name was. I brought it up on a Sorority Team Brief a long, long time ago. But yeah, so, yeah.
Well, fantastic information, Nick. Yeah, it is. And earlier in the video, I don't know if you caught it, I showed a quote from Baron von Ninge, member of the original member of the Illuminati after it was founded. He wrote a book in 1781 exposing how the Jesuits created the Illuminati and the Rosicrucians in the German. That I'm going to see if I can find a English translation of. But Baron von Ninge said that the whole Rosicrucian order, there never has been a Rosicrucian. It's all totally
exactly
made up fable.
Well, dude,
the Jesuits use to peddle and promote.
Yeah, dude, there's an order that claims it's from must have been 1200 AD, and a big proponent of this idea comes from an author, a famous author. He's not famous, but he's kind of famous. semi-famous author named Gary Wayne. I've exposed him many times. I'm not going to get into it, but he's one of the big proponents of like propagating the doctrine of the faith that the Rosicrucians are ancient and behind Freemasons, the Illuminati, the Jesuits. And it's like, yeah, okay. And I sent them literally the quote unquote founder of Rosicrucianism, Johann Valentino Andrea, with this freaking book cover that has the Jesuit monogram on it. I'm like, so what about this? And he goes, oh yeah, I don't have much to say on that. Pretty much is what he said. I'm like,
yeah, I'm a total fraud. Yep.
Yo, no, but it's funny because he attends Roman Catholic mass with his Roman Catholic wife, but he's not a Roman Catholic. And I was like, oh, okay, yes. And he only
he's in the quote unquote like evangelical movement, right? And the evangelical movement is totally co-opted by Rome, like absolute.
It's funny.
Lock, stop, barrel.
You buy his book, guys. Buy his book, Genesis 6 Conspiracy, whatever, and type in Jesuit if you buy a digital version or a PDF or whatever. Type in Jesuit. He literally references every single secret society from 6,000 years ago to the present under the sun. Every single one, thousands of them. He only references the word Jesuit once. Society of Jesus, none. Jesuits, one. He says the Roman Catholic Church is the mother church of Christianity. You can tell he's a total people pawn. He says Islam is the third revelation of Christianity. Islam was created by the Vatican. He says Jesuit once, and get this, Eric. He references Nicholas de Bonnefille's chased out of Freemasonry, Jesuits chased out of Freemasonry, as the only time. So he never writes the word Jesuit. He just references the title of the book. And I was like, buddy, have you read this book? Have you read this book?
Yeah, I'm saying this. If and again, if he had access to this book, he would have all the history is there. How the Jesuits created the modern system of Freemasonry, and he's actively, gatekeeping that. That's a sign to me. And again, it's hard to have proof, but I think guys like Protestants like Tony Palmer and guys like that in the evangelical movement, I think they are Jesuits.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Tony Palmer. Anyone who says the Reformation is over.
100%. Guys like Billy Graham and Franklin Graham, because again, it's in the Jesuit oath. They say you will be a Jesuit, you will be a Baptist, you will be a Protestant.
Yeah, you can type
again, it's just something like it's hard to prove it empirically, but you just have to judge them by their fruits. If you see these Protestant pastors who are whoring themselves out to the Catholic Church, there's a good chance that they're actually secret Jesuits themselves.
Yeah, there's that other guy. I forget what his name is. I don't know. He went to the Vatican. Whatever. The Benny Hinn or whatever. He's seen at the Vatican, inside the Vatican, getting.
Oh, he's another huge evangelical fraud. Yep.
Yeah, and there's that other guy. I forget what his name is, but he's at the Vatican with his family.
Well, Copeland.
No, but he that guy's definitely he's with the, well, yeah, he actually did go to the Vatican. You're right.
Yeah, Kenneth Copeland. Yeah, he's another huge fraud, Roman American televangelist. Well, Pat Robertson is another, he's a massive one also. Pat Robertson is a Knight of Malta. I've seen source.
Harold. Oh, it's Joel Osteen. Just type in Joel Osteen at the Vatican.
Oh, he went to see the. Okay, no, that makes perfect sense. Joel Osteen at the Vatican. He's the evangelical pastor too that kept his doors shut during Hurricane Katrina. That Jesuit Homeland Security operation where they let the levees break, flood the city, and then confiscate people's guns, a drill and martial law. Essentially, long story short, but Joel Osteen kept his doors locked. That shows, that's very Jesuitical of him. Yeah,
well, I think it was. I'll let you go here, but Alberto Rivera said in one of his books that the charismatic movement was totally created by the Jesuits, and of course it is. Some like Kundalini spirit shit where people start going crazy. You think that's the Holy Spirit, man? The Holy Spirit's chill, keeps you firm and grounded and still and peaceful. It doesn't make you fucking freak out.
Oh, absolutely. And I know, say Alberto Rivera, I've just in terms of another Protestant movement that controls Seventh-day Adventism, I learned from him that what was the name of the Jesuit? There's a Jesuit that wrote with the book From Saturday to Sunday with Samuel Bakioki. What was Samuel? Yeah, Bakioki. The cover of the book. Yeah, right here. Samuel Bakioki, From Sabbath to Sunday, an historical investigation. And so then again, people just, and this is a perfect example. This would be a good way to finish off because this kind of shows the proof of Jesuits assuming identities of other faiths to infiltrate them and to subvert them ultimately. But this was a book that, and I learned this first from Alberto Rivera. People should check out Alberto Rivera's lectures if they haven't. But look at the cover of this book. If you see my screen, this is an Adventist book. You see the papal crest on the cover. Like they're not even trying to hide it anymore. That's kind of amazing. And it says the Pontifical Gregorian University Press, Rome. That's
Gregorian University. That's the Jesuit University. First one.
And then so this is Samuel Bakayoko. Actually, and then I know people have exposed this guy, this Adventist. He's actually been exposed in pictures being dressed as a Jesuit. So this is an example of a Jesuit priest who is he's pretending to be a Seventh-day Adventist to infiltrate the movement and to subvert it for the greater glory of God, or to increase the power of the Pope.
Now I'm not gonna I'm just saying, if anyone knows what I'm talking about, they protect the seventh day, but what about the seven feasts? That's all I'm gonna say. That's how you know the Seventh-day Adventists are